Nicole Kidman has filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 19 years of marriage. The court papers show the actress will remain the primary caregiver of the couple's teenage daughters.
Nicole Kidman has finally broken the silence Hollywood spent nearly 2 decades protecting. At 58, the Oscar-winning actress has revealed the truth behind her split from country star Keith Urban. And it's nothing like the flawless love story fans were sold. Her confession is raw, unexpected, and far more human than the headlines ever suggested. It's a truth shaped by love, exhaustion, and years of pretending to be okay when she wasn't. So buckle up, because what Nicole just revealed changes everything. The confession that shook Hollywood. When Nicole Kidman finally spoke at 58, it wasn't through a press conference or a glossy magazine interview. It was a quiet statement that carried the force of an earthquake. "I'm done pretending." After nearly 2 decades of red carpet smiles, hand-holding photo ops, and polished interviews about marital bliss, the words hit Hollywood like a thunderclap. This wasn't the Nicole the world had come to know, the ever-composed Oscar winner who played elegance like a second skin. This was something raw, stripped, and startlingly human. Within hours, social media erupted. Fans who had once idolized her and Keith Urban as the last surviving symbol of
He did in Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
The Canada side or the New York?
real love in Hollywood were left stunned. Comment sections turned into emotional battlegrounds. Some mourning the end of a fairy tale, others claiming they saw it coming. Hashtags like #DonePretending and #Kidman Unmasked trended worldwide. One fan wrote, "If Nicole Kidman says she's done pretending, imagine how long she's been performing for everyone but herself." That line became the emotional echo of the moment, a reminder that even the most polished lives can be heavy with silence. Whispers turned into theories, and theories into wildfire. Some claimed Keith's old habits.
That's kind of boring. I mean, that's just a Bellini,
That's
right?
just a Bellini, right?
Oh, I can do better than that.
Gambling and late-night disappearances had resurfaced. Others pointed to emotional neglect, to years of carrying a man who never truly met her halfway. Then came the speculation about Hollywood's PR machine, that their perfect marriage had long been produced, each anniversary post and award show kiss, choreographed to protect their brand. Whatever the truth, Nicole's statement was the first time she tore through that illusion, and fans could feel the exhaustion behind her calm delivery. According to insiders, that breaking point wasn't impulsive. It had been building for years. Behind her serene red carpet poise, she had been quietly suffocating under the pressure to maintain perfection.
Yeah, I do. No, I don't know. It's just something I really like, snakes. I mean,
To play not just the role of actress, but of savior, wife, and mother all at once. Those closest to her said she had grown tired of smiling through the ache, tired of defending someone who had long stopped defending her. The mask finally cracked, one source said, and once it did, there was no going back. Her confession didn't just shake a marriage, it shattered a myth. Hollywood has always loved its illusions, but when Nicole Kidman whispered she was done pretending, it wasn't just a marriage that ended, it was an era of performance. For the first time in years, Nicole wasn't acting. She was telling the truth, and the world finally listened. But what finally pushed her past the point of no return? Was it heartbreak, betrayal, or something far deeper? The answer lies in what came next. Keep watching. Why she walked away. Her decision to end her 19-year marriage wasn't a dramatic impulse or a tabloid spectacle. It was the quiet result of years of emotional erosion. When she finally filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, many dismissed it as Hollywood's go-to phrase for privacy. But for Nicole, those 2 words held the weight of 1,000 unsaid truths about respect, safety, and the emotional exhaustion of holding up something that no longer held her. Insiders close to her say the breaking point came not from a single fight or betrayal, but from the slow death of communication. Conversations that once felt intimate had become mechanical. Every attempt to reconnect was met with distance, and every silence between them grew heavier. Nicole reportedly described it as living with someone who's always somewhere else, even when he's in the same room. Her voice, once steady in interviews, when talking about Keith,
It's me, John.
had softened in recent years, betraying the fatigue of a woman who had been speaking into an emotional void for far too long. The sense of abandonment didn't arrive overnight. It crept in through long absences, missed calls, and the feeling that her presence no longer mattered in the rhythm of his life. Keith's demanding tours, late studio nights, and increasing need for creative space left Nicole navigating the household and their daughters largely alone. She understood his passion for music. It was part of what she loved. But passion without partnership soon began to feel like loneliness dressed in routine. When reports surfaced that Keith had quietly moved into his own place earlier in the summer of 2025, Nicole was, by all accounts, blindsided. She had believed they were simply enduring another stretch of distance, not living out a separation he had already accepted.
Bright orange.
Diamonds or pearls?
Well, diamonds are a girl's best friend.
One close friend revealed she was devastated not just by the move, but by how easily he seemed to adjust to it. For her, it wasn't just about being left behind. It was about realizing that somewhere along the way, she had become optional in a life she helped build. Nicole's sense of betrayal, as she later admitted, wasn't about infidelity or scandal. It was about trust, the erosion of it. Trust that when things got hard, they'd both fight for the same future. Trust that her loyalty during his darkest days, the rehab stays, the long nights of relapse fears, would mean something unshakable. But over time, she began to feel like the only one still trying to protect the marriage. The woman who once stood by her husband through addiction was now standing alone, trying to defend a bond that had stopped defending itself.
And also, Liam Moriarty. And I have to say, Bruna Papandrea and Per Sari.
And so, when she finally said, "I'm done pretending," it wasn't just about leaving Keith Urban, it was about reclaiming her self-respect. The Hollywood fairy tale had long expired. What remained was the quiet courage of a woman choosing peace over pretense. Still, her decision didn't come without heartbreak. The family portraits, the shared laughter, the songs he once wrote about her, all haunted the silence she walked into. But the truth was undeniable. The cracks in their foundation hadn't appeared overnight. They had been there for years, hidden beneath glamour, guarded by smiles, and ignored until they split the surface wide open. Nicole didn't walk away in anger. She walked away because she finally realized love without respect isn't love at all. But how did such a deep connection begin to crumble? Let's rewind to the start, to the moment when fate first brought Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban together. The perfect love story that wasn't. It began like a story scripted by destiny. Two Australians, one the glamorous Oscar-winning actress, the other a rising country music star, meeting in Los Angeles at the G'day USA Gala in January 2005. Nicole Kidman had already built a career that defined elegance and restraint, while Keith Urban carried the charm of a southern troubadour with a guitar and a wounded past. When they were introduced that night, cameras caught the spark. But no one could have predicted how that moment would shape the next 2 decades of their lives. Nicole would later recall feeling an instant connection. "I remember thinking, this is the kind of man who could change my life," she once admitted. But Keith, shy and reserved, didn't call for months. Nicole thought he wasn't interested, unaware that he was simply intimidated by her fame and perhaps already wrestling with inner battles she couldn't yet see. Then came the moment that would forever anchor their early romance in her memory. On her birthday, months after their first meeting,
I ain't about roughing
We
it.
camp in the backyard.
I love
Do you
that.
go camping too?
Keith appeared unannounced at her New York apartment at dawn, holding a bouquet of gardenias, her favorite flower, symbolizing purity and love. She later said, "That's when I knew. I was a goner." The world fell in love with them just as quickly. Within a year, Keith proposed, and on June 25, 2006, they exchanged vows in a candlelit ceremony at the Cardinal Soretti Memorial Chapel in Sydney. It was intimate, radiant, and deeply personal. Nicole's adopted children from her marriage to Tom Cruise, Isabella and Connor, were there. Standing alongside family and friends from both sides of the Pacific, the bride glowed in Balenciaga silk, Keith beamed with pride, and the church, illuminated by hundreds of flickering candles, seemed to promise a lifetime of warmth and devotion. But beneath the radiance of that day, subtle warning signs lingered. Keith had long struggled with substance abuse.
Cool, but inside I felt like I'd snuck into the royal ball.
A battle he'd managed to keep at bay, until the pressures of fame, touring, and the expectations of a perfect marriage began to weigh on him again. Just 4 months after the wedding, he checked into rehab. For most couples, that would have been the breaking point. For Nicole, it became proof of her unwavering loyalty. She canceled her work commitments and stood by him, visiting regularly, refusing to let tabloids define the narrative. "Love isn't about running when things get hard," she said in an interview years later. That loyalty earned admiration around the world. Fans hailed her as the devoted wife who fought for her husband's recovery, the woman who believed love could fix what pain had broken, and for a time, it seemed to work.
I think Mathieu brings his essence to the house.
Keith publicly credited Nicole for saving his life, calling her his anchor and inspiration. They became Hollywood's golden couple. Proof, it seemed, that love could endure addiction, fame, and distance. But what no one realized was that their fairy tale foundation had already cracked. What began as a love story built on rescue and redemption slowly became one built on imbalance. Nicole's role as savior was romantic in headlines, but exhausting in reality. Keith's demons were quiet, but never gone. And though the world saw perfection, 2 stars shining in sync, the truth was more fragile. Behind those luminous smiles was a love already learning how to survive itself. So what really happens when love becomes a lifeline, and the lifeline starts to fray? Stay tuned to find out. Behind closed doors, love, loyalty, and lies. For the world, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were the embodiment of love that had survived the odds. A Hollywood marriage wrapped in loyalty, faith, and grace. But behind those perfectly timed smiles and affectionate glances lay a very different reality, one shaped by Keith's ongoing battles and Nicole's quiet endurance. What the cameras captured were moments of tenderness. What they didn't were the nights of uncertainty, the silences that stretched too long, and the exhaustion of holding together something that kept slipping apart. Keith's struggle with addiction didn't end after rehab. It evolved. The early years of their marriage were marked by long stretches of calm.
I had my kids there in Sydney for a couple of weeks and we came back actually.
Followed by sudden storms. Friends described him as restless, often vanishing into work or social nights in Nashville, returning home distant and apologetic. Nicole, ever the pillar of composure, would put on a smile and assure everyone he was simply tired from recording. But the truth was more complicated. Behind closed doors, she was walking on eggshells, unsure which version of her husband would come through the door, the affectionate partner or the man lost in his own chaos. It was around this time that whispers began to ripple through the entertainment world. Insiders claimed that every red carpet appearance, every anniversary post, every seemingly spontaneous public gesture was carefully orchestrated by their PR team. According to one Hollywood insider, their marriage became a production. Lighting, direction, editing, everything was staged.
So because of she's like the greatest designer, which is known around the world.
To perfection. The goal was simple: keep the illusion alive. The media adored the idea of Nicole, the composed star who had overcome heartbreak, and Keith, the reformed musician who found redemption through love. But inside that picture-perfect frame, cracks were widening. Nicole's team, aware of how fragile her husband's image was, reportedly managed every headline with surgical precision. If Keith missed an event, excuses were crafted. If he looked withdrawn, statements were released about artistic focus. Nicole played her part gracefully.
My family's my priority. I don't think it's not really about.
She smiled through interviews, spoke of her husband's strength, and projected calm when her private world felt anything but. She had built a career on emotional discipline, but at home, that discipline became a shield. Therapy sessions came and went, often more about managing public narrative than repairing their connection. According to one source, they didn't talk about healing, they talked about timing, when to appear together, when to post online. It wasn't therapy for marriage, it was therapy for image. Nicole, always the professional, complied, but something in her began to shift. The woman who once fought for love now found herself performing it. Friends noticed the change first. She stopped confiding in them. She stopped crying. One longtime associate reportedly said, "Nicole stopped crying years ago. She learned to smile through the storm. Her stillness wasn't peace. It was survival." Every smile at a premiere, every gentle touch on a red carpet was an act of quiet endurance. The public saw devotion, a woman standing by her man, weathering hardship with grace. But in truth, what they were watching was damage control dressed as affection. Behind those flawless appearances was a marriage gasping for authenticity, a love story rewritten by publicists, and a woman who no longer recognized her own reflection in the fantasy she was forced to maintain. Nicole had become an actress not just on screen, but in her own life. And slowly, the role she once played so perfectly began to suffocate the woman beneath it. Cracks in the spotlight. At first glance, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban seemed untouchable, the rare Hollywood couple who had managed to keep love alive amid fame, fortune, and the endless flash of cameras. But as their careers soared to new heights, the very spotlight that once celebrated them began to expose the fissures beneath their polished surface. Fame had been their shared language once, but it slowly turned into the wall that separated them. Nicole's schedule was relentless. From film sets in London and Los Angeles to television shoots in Australia, her life became a carousel of flights, scripts, and premieres. Each new project, from Big Little Lies to Being the Ricardos, was another triumph for her career, but another absence from home. Keith, meanwhile, was constantly on the road, performing across continents for his High and Alive world tour. Weeks turned into months apart, and their once romantic reunions became polite exchanges squeezed between commitments. The emotional distance that began as a few missed calls soon became the unspoken norm. To outsiders, the couple still looked perfectly aligned, but eagle-eyed fans began noticing subtle changes. The anniversary posts that used to overflow with affection grew shorter, and sometimes didn't appear at all. Then came the now infamous deleted Instagram photo, a picture Keith uploaded captioned "Still Standing Strong" that vanished within hours. Fans who saved it noticed something striking. Nicole wasn't wearing her wedding ring. That small detail set the internet ablaze. Suddenly, every public appearance became a forensic investigation. At award shows, cameras zoomed in on their body language. On TikTok, fans analyzed every glance, every smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. One viral post with millions of views captioned it perfectly. Nicole's smile looks like a performance, and Keith's eyes look like an apology. Others pointed out how they'd stopped walking red carpets hand in hand, how interviews about their marriage were either deflected or cut short. When Nicole skipped a few major events in early 2025, tabloids went into overdrive. Was she avoiding the spotlight or avoiding him?
Standing here in Hollywood going...
Rumors of tension reached fever pitch after a video surfaced from an industry gala showing Keith seated apart from Nicole, barely exchanging words. The moment lasted seconds, but in Hollywood's echo chamber, seconds can feel like evidence. Even their smiles looked rehearsed, the kind that say, "We're fine," while everything inside screams otherwise. For years, the media had painted them as the perfect counter-argument to Hollywood cynicism, proof that love could survive addiction, distance, and fame. But slowly, even the press began to lose faith. The stories shifted from admiration to speculation, from Hollywood's most devoted couple to Nicole and Keith, distant partners in different worlds. Behind the curated images, the truth was simpler and sadder. Fame had been their shared dream, but it became their shared undoing. The applause that once brought them together had grown louder than their voices. drowning out intimacy and trust. Love can survive fame, yes, until fame becomes the only thing left holding it together. So when love starts fading behind the spotlight, what comes next? Keep watching to find out. The breaking point. By early summer of 2025, what once looked like Hollywood's most enduring love story quietly unraveled behind closed doors. Keith Urban, the man who had once shown up at Nicole Kidman's doorstep at dawn, holding gardenias,
That's been my life and my children, my husband, and my work.
had reportedly moved out of their Nashville home and into his own private residence. To the outside world, it seemed like just another busy season, two stars caught up in their demanding schedules. But to those close to them, it was the beginning of a deliberate separation. Nicole, still believing it was a temporary phase, continued to hold on. She leaned into her family, spent time with their daughters, and kept her wedding ring on even as speculation grew louder. Yet, beneath the surface, she already sensed something irreversible. She thought they were just weathering another storm, a close friend later revealed, but he had already packed for calm waters elsewhere. That realization cut deeper than any public scandal. It wasn't infidelity that broke her. It was indifference. The shock came in waves. By September 30th, 2025, the news hit every major outlet. Nicole Kidman had officially filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 19 years of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. It was a phrase that appeared coldly standard on paper, yet behind those words were 2 decades of battles fought, promises broken, and silences that grew too loud to ignore. Fans around the world were stunned. How could a couple that had survived addiction, distance, and fame suddenly crumble without warning? The truth, as Nicole would later admit privately, was that the collapse wasn't sudden at all. It had been unfolding in slow motion. The filing was not an impulsive decision, but the final act of a woman who had already grieved long before.
And having the opportunity to see these, I'm part of an extraordinary ensemble in this.
The world caught up. She was blindsided, yes, by how quickly Keith adapted to their new reality, by how quietly he seemed to accept the end. But she wasn't naive. She had seen the signs, the missed calls, the growing absences, the emotional detachment disguised as busyness. Keith remained silent through the media frenzy. No statements, no denials, just a series of cryptic posts, dark skies, empty highways, and a caption that read, "Sometimes love just runs out of road." It was poetic, but it didn't soften the blow. The public dissected every word, every photo, searching for meaning in the void he left behind. Meanwhile, Nicole chose silence too, but hers carried a different kind of power. It wasn't avoidance. It was composure. Her silence was the armor she had learned to wear. While tabloids called her heartbroken and fragile, insiders knew she was neither. She was calculating, steady, and preparing. This wasn't a woman undone by loss. It was a woman gathering herself for truth. She didn't need to rush to the press or post cryptic messages. The silence was her statement. When the papers were signed, Nicole Kidman walked away without spectacle, without tears in public view. Her quiet dignity was her rebellion, a declaration that her story would not be written by tabloids or fans, but by her own hand. Because of her silence, it turned out, wasn't weakness at all. It was preparation for what came next, and what came next would redefine her entirely. Hollywood's panic and the secret files. When Nicole Kidman's divorce filing hit the public record, Hollywood's PR machine didn't just flinch. It went into full-blown panic. The woman known for decades as the industry's most controlled, composed star had suddenly gone quiet, and that silence terrified everyone. Insiders whispered that Nicole wasn't just walking away from a marriage, she was walking away from the script Hollywood had written for her. And according to rumors spreading through back channels and celebrity blogs, she wasn't leaving empty-handed. Reports began surfacing about Nicole's secret journals, private notes, therapy records, even alleged recordings she had kept over the years. Some claimed she had documented everything: arguments, moments of relapse, the pressure to maintain a public illusion. Others insisted she'd stored the files with her legal team, just in case. Whether or not those files existed didn't even matter. The idea of them was enough to shake executives and publicists across Los Angeles. One insider put it bluntly, "If Nicole speaks, half of Hollywood's fairy tales go up in smoke." The rumor mill churned faster than ever. PR teams reportedly scrambled to clean up old interviews, edit promotional clips, and scrub affectionate sound bites from Keith's past statements. Studio executives, who had invested millions in projects starring Nicole, began holding emergency meetings to manage potential fallout. "They're terrified she'll go off script," said a source close to a major studio. "She doesn't need to write a tell-all." One interview, one tearful sentence, and the entire illusion collapses. Meanwhile, Keith Urban was unraveling. Multiple outlets reported missed studio sessions, canceled performances, and nights spent alone at the Hermitage Hotel bar in Nashville. Friends allegedly said he'd started drinking again, his creative focus replaced by regret. It was a dark echo of the struggles Nicole had once helped him survive. Only this time, she wasn't there to save him. The roles had reversed, and the woman who used to stand behind him in silence was now standing alone in strength. Amid the frenzy, one person remained her constant, Naomi Watts. The two had been friends since their teenage years in Sydney, and insiders said Naomi was Nicole's anchor through the chaos. She reportedly told her, "You've been performing for everyone but yourself. It's time to live as Nicole, not as someone's wife." That advice hit home. Then came the moment that silenced every rumor mill. She was recently spotted at Amfar's Dallas auction event in Texas. In a classy look, the Oscar winner donned a black floor-length dress. When reporters shouted questions about Keith, she smiled calmly and said, "I'm not pretending anymore." The crowd fell silent. That single sentence did what no publicist could spin. It ended the performance. For the first time in years, Nicole Kidman wasn't the actress playing the part of Hollywood's perfect wife. She was the director of her own narrative, rewriting the script one unspoken truth at a time. And for an industry built on illusion, that was the scariest act of all. Because she didn't just reclaim her voice, she reclaimed her power. So what comes next when the performance ends and the spotlight fades? Keep watching. Freedom. At 58. Nicole Kidman's story didn't end with the divorce papers. In truth, it began there. At 58, she has traded the noise of Hollywood for something quieter, peace, purpose, and a kind of freedom she hadn't known in decades. Friends say her focus now is on the people who matter most, her daughters, Sunday and Faith, and her sister Antonia, who has long been her anchor through every storm. Family has become her sanctuary, a reminder that stability can exist even after the foundations of marriage have fallen away. According to those close to her, Nicole is intentionally slowing down. No longer chasing every role, she's becoming selective, drawn to projects that mirror her own transformation. Stories about resilience, honesty, and starting over. Insiders hint she's gravitating towards scripts that explore emotional truth rather than glamour, mirroring her real-life decision to live without pretense. She's done performing off-screen, one friend told a magazine. Now every part she takes must mean something. Co-parenting with Keith has become part of this new rhythm. Under their custody arrangement, Nicole remains the primary parent, ensuring her daughters have structure and calm amid change. Keith still plays his role, though from a distance, their communication reportedly respectful but measured. The days of shared red carpets are over. What remains is a shared commitment to their children's happiness. Hollywood still watches her every move, but Nicole seems unfazed. Her calm public poise now feels genuine, not guarded. There's no rush to define her next chapter, only a quiet confidence that she's writing it herself. The woman who once lived under the weight of perfection has finally set it down, because when pretending ends, the real story, her story, finally begins. So what do you think? Was Nicole Kidman's confession a quiet act of freedom, or the final scene in Hollywood's longest illusion? We'd like to hear your take. Don't forget to like and subscribe.